Hello everybody and welcome to another top 5 board gaming video. Today's topic is all about games where you get to exert influence. What I mean by this is where you've got a map with various regions that you can control, or you've got characters represented by cards, and essentially you can spend some resources in order to control these different entities that will allow you to reap rewards in some context or another. Now, this is a rather broad category, but for me personally, I like to see this in terms of like an organizational structure, like a government structure, or I like to see it on a map where you're controlling particular aspects, like a specific region, a specific country, things along those lines. I don't like seeing it where you are assigned something and then you can sort of grow it and make it bigger and badder, but rather you can have a constant switching between what you can and can't do and what you control and don't control, whether you're going up or down a particular chain. But that said, you guys know I love to hear from you, so please let me know anything and everything you think in the comments below. Again, influence in a board game can be a huge thing, and for me personally, you guys will see what I'm talking about, but I would love to hear what you guys think about it. Now, without further ado though, we're going to jump right into my number 5. At number 5, I've got Imperial. This is a really unique game where essentially everybody is playing as an investor, and whoever has the most stock or bonds in a particular country controls what that country does. You can levy taxes, you can pay out dividends to anybody who has bonds, you can build more factories, build new units, go to war, all of this kind of stuff. But at the same time, you can also buy additional stocks in other countries so that you end up controlling multiples, or somebody can buy you out and then you're not controlling anything. It becomes really interesting, especially in the mid to late game, because you can have those swings in control. It's really fun, it's very fascinating, but for me it's lower on the list because it's far more economics based than it is solely about I have influence and therefore I control. So with that, Imperial is my number 5. At number 4, I've got Twilight Struggle. This game really takes influence to the next level in terms of you are literally placing influence on particular countries to sway them either towards the US side of thinking or the USSR side of thinking during the Cold War. The thing is that influence has everything to do with what you can and cannot do in the game. It allows you to control countries, control whole continents, get additional points, lose points, all sorts of stuff in between, and it's a wonderfully done abstract way of essentially showing how the minds of the people are swayed one way or the other. I absolutely love it. The thing is that it's a little bit lower on the list because I like games that enable you to do more things once you have influence. You get resources, you're able to do more stuff, whereas in this case, the end goal is simply to get the influence. So that's why it's a little bit lower on the list. Still a great game, Twilight Struggle, my number 4. At number 3, I've got Chicken Caesar, the game about ancient Roman senators and leaders in the form of chickens. So essentially the idea here is that you have chickens that are part of a hierarchical structure where you've got the Caesar at the top, you've got various senators, and you've got these different levels that the chickens can all be at, and depending on where they are, they can control the military, the treasury, they can control a lot more of everything if they're the Caesar, and all sorts of other different stuff. The thing is that I love the organizational hierarchy here, the fact that you have this sort of governmental aspect to it, but at the same time, it's relatively simple to some of the other ones that I'm about to talk about. And on top of that, it might be a little bit too quirky to be really taken seriously by a lot of groups. It's still a fun game and it's reasonably well designed though. So Chicken Caesar is my number 3. At number 2, I've got Nothing Personal, a game about the mafia. If you're going to be talking about influence in an organization, you may as well go with the mafia. You have the Don at the top and all the goons at the bottom, and everybody is trying to move up. I like this game because you have a quick rotation through the characters where they can get arrested or offed or whatever it happens to be, and the idea is that you want to control particular jobs. So you have your assassin, you have your goons, you've got your, you have your treasury guy, which gives you money and all sorts of other different stuff. The thing I really don't like about it is that not all aspects of the influence that you're placing are secretive, and so you don't have as much intrigue as I would like to see. That said, it's still a great game. Nothing Personal, my number 2. At number 1, I've got Kremlin. Not only is this the first game of the style that I played, but it is still the best in my personal opinion. The first step of this game is that you write down where you are sending a particular number of influence points when you see a hierarchy of the different characters and where they are in the Russian government. And then as the game goes forward, you're going to be taking people out, moving people up, moving people around, and doing all that kind of stuff. And essentially you're scored based off of where your influenced people end up in the hierarchy. The higher up your people are, the more points you get. But of course you don't want to constantly be moving up the same people, because then it's going to be obvious who you backed. So you're able to really play the intrigue card and the sort of weirdness of what am I doing? Who do I actually have? What do I want to do? And I love that aspect, and that's probably my favorite part of the game and why I bumped it up so high on the list. Kremlin, my number one. Well, everybody, that's it for me. I hope that you enjoyed this video on my top 5 favorite placing influence type of games. Again, for me personally, this is about moving stuff around on a map or in an organizational tree, something along those lines, where you have a subtlety to it. You don't have anything that you very distinctly control, or your control can be taken away at any sort of given time. I really love that aspect of playing and reducing and moving around influence. But that said, you've got a lot of options for this. You can even argue that something like Kingsburg involves influence because you're activating a particular character through worker placement. And of course, with all of that, I need to know what you guys think. What are your thoughts on the topic? What are your thoughts on the games? Let me know anything and everything in the comments below, because you know I love to hear from you. And of course, if you haven't done so already, please take a look at my various social media pages, as well as my Patreon page, where you can interact with myself and my channel in a whole bunch of really fun ways. But that said, once again, thank you very, very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.